Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be reviewing the Ronin SC. There is a lot to be said about the Ronin SC. I'm just gonna run through some things really quickly that differentiate this gimbal from the Ronin S and others. First off, this is lighter than the Ronin S. This weighs about 2.4 pounds. The regular Ronin S weighs about 4 pounds. Size-wise, the Ronin SC is also smaller than the Ronin S, and the Ronin SC is cheaper. This comes in at $439 without all the extra bells and whistles. Also, the Ronin SC is made up mostly of plastics and composites as compared to the Ronin S that's made up mostly of metal, and the grip is smaller, so the battery is smaller on the Ronin SC, but because it has smaller motors as well, it doesn't draw as much battery, so the battery life is still very respectable at 11 hours. I do have a good bit of experience when it comes to DJI gimbal specifically. I started out with the Ronin S and I traveled around Europe with it. I've brought it on trips domestically as well. It's been a great gimbal, but the weight was always an issue, which is why I was so excited about the Ronin SC, because the weight and form factor, the ability of how it folds down, was a big draw to me because I travel with a 3-axis gimbal most of the time. One of the biggest differences between the Ronin SC and the Ronin S is the form factor and also the way that this gimbal will break down. So the arms can all be folded down without banging into each other. I noted on the Ronin S that it didn't have any rubber components to kind of shield its arms from hitting one another, and I had issues with kind of paint scraping off because the arms would bang into each other. The Ronin SC totally solves that issue, and all the arms can also be locked into place, which is just awesome for travel. So you have a gimbal that is smaller and lighter and folds down into an awesome form factor that can be broken into its different components. You can take the tripod off, you can take the battery grip off, and then you're left really with just the motors as well as the joystick and the trigger, and it was so much easier to travel around with this thing. So I brought it on a 2-week trip to Europe. I kept it in my backpack the entire trip. This gimbal traveled with me every single day, and I almost didn't know it was there because it's so light at 2.4 pounds or 1.1 kilograms. They absolutely knocked it out of the park with this gimbal, with the form factor, and with the weight as well. As we've come to expect from DJI and their gimbals, it shoots really smooth video. It's very intuitive. It just works really well out of the box. The auto tune feature is incredible. There's no guessing about parameters or anything like that. You throw your camera on there, you set it to auto tune, and you can be very confident that the settings that it gives you are gonna work very well. You can set up different profiles, so you could have one profile where it's less responsive, right? It gives you a much more stable image, very smooth. You could have one that's more for sports, so it's quicker. Different things that you can do like that. Same thing with the joystick in those profiles. You can set them up to be more responsive or less responsive depending on the profile that you're in. The app is pretty much the same story, very user-friendly. It works very well. I love the controls. While the app is absolutely great, I didn't get into the active track stuff too much. I did test it out, but for me, it just doesn't fit the way that I shoot, so it's not something that I'm gonna focus on in this video. It seemed a little bit more gimmicky than something that I would actually use in day-to-day shooting. Hopefully I don't offend anyone by saying that, but that's just kind of how I feel about it. If you feel differently, then let me know. Also, just because this is smaller, lighter, and cheaper does not mean it's any less capable. The Ronin SC can also be built out with the follow focus and all those different things that you can also do with the Ronin S, but they give you the option of buying the kit that comes with that stuff for a little bit more, or just the basic kit for $439. I don't have much to complain about this gimbal. Everything has been great. Now, as a Sony user, I'm gonna have one major complaint, and it's that this gimbal will not power your camera. And that's just because Sony cameras have horrific battery life, at least the cameras that I'm using. I'm in the A64, 65, and 6300, and those batteries are just awful. So I love when a gimbal also powers the camera. It's just absolutely great to have that feature. And DJI does not include that currently, and I don't think they have any plans to. I've had the Moza and the Moza Aircross 2, and both of those power my camera, and I love that feature. Now, balancing this gimbal is a little bit different than balancing the Ronin S. The mechanism on the tilt arm is a bit different, and there is one drawback, since we're talking about negatives, and that when you loosen that arm to move your camera in and out, it can move left to right, throwing off your roll as well. So when I would take the camera off, it would be loose enough to also move and adjust the roll. So I had to make a mental note that if I was taking my camera off of the gimbal, I would need to tighten back down the gimbal so that I wouldn't lose my roll balance as well. It's a very minor thing, and I realized this is the way they had to design it so that all the arms could fold up nicely. So I totally get it, but I just want to let you know about that so that you don't throw this in your backpack and then you pull it out and it's totally out of balance, because I like to be able to pull it out of my backpack, get it together, and quickly shoot something. The backpack that I use is the Peak Design Everyday Backpack 30 liter. If you want to check that out, I have a video that you can look at up here. It's an awesome backpack that allowed me to break this thing down, keep it stored in the backpack, swing the backpack around, build it real quick, throw my camera in, and probably in about 90 seconds or so, I'd be ready to go. And I thought that was great. Now, while I think the weight of this, the form factor, and everything is absolutely great, that does come at a cost, right? So the capacity of the Ronin SC is about 4.5 pounds, and the capacity of the Ronin S is about 8 pounds. So you are getting roughly half the capacity. You get 11 hours of battery life on the Ronin SC, and you get 12 hours of battery life on the Ronin S. They're pretty much the same, but this is dealing with a much lighter payload than the Ronin S is. For most of the work that I did on this gimbal, I was using an A6400 with a 10 to 18 millimeter lens, as well as a Rode video mic on the top. So not super heavy, but this thing handled it absolutely fine. As you know, I love time lapses. This thing does a great job when shooting time lapses. Really smooth video as well. Just overall, excellent build quality. Even though it is mostly plastic and lighter, it still doesn't feel cheap or that it'll just fall apart on you. But I do want you to know that this is much more plastic than you will get on the Ronin S. If you use Sonys, you know how horrible the rolling shutter can be and how awful handheld video is. So I'm a big fan of 3-axis gimbals when it comes to using a Sony. So I'm gonna be bringing this gimbal everywhere with me when I travel, just because the form factor is so great and it breaks down into my bag so easily. So to recap, it is smaller, it's lighter, it's cheaper, it's great for travel, it's got the locking arms. Hope this review of the Ronin SC was helpful for you. Thank you so much for watching Break It Yourself. As always, don't forget to thumbs me up, and we'll see you next time.